providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
What was that about? I know one thing that concerned me. I didn't see an organized effort of surrogates out there, and even in the administration, to have Bobby Kennedy's back. Particularly, I thought he took it to him that day. Your thoughts?
Yeah, he was Van Helsing to the vampire, Steve. He was the sunlight and the silver bullet to the werewolf. Bobby Kennedy is somebody who, in his confirmation hearings, had the single most viral clip that I've seen on the internet for any confirmation hearing ever. And there were a lot of bangers from everyone from Tulsi to Kash Patel to Pete Hegseth. But Bobby Kennedy looking straight dead in the eye Bernie Sanders and saying, "Oh, you're gonna accuse me of going after Big Pharma. Well, you have a giant Big Pharma receipt stamped right on your ass that says that they've given you multiple millions of dollars. You are the Big Pharma shill." And he not only did that, he also scalped with a tomahawk Elizabeth Warren for saying the exact same thing. She also is a massive big money, Big Pharma shill. And Bobby Kennedy's capacity to go into that den of vampires like sunlight and expose how corrupt Washington, D.C. works, and how these companies want to make you sicker, not better. They profit off our misery. They are not incentivized at all to make you healthy. They are incentivized to make you sicker, and they often do so at force of a gun from the federal government, which is what they're asking for here. What they really want is force, to force you to use a vaccine. Otherwise, they will steal your job from you. They will take your livelihood, and they will put you and your children in the breadlines. That is ultimately what they want, medical tyranny. Bobby Kennedy in the MAHA movement, arguably the most powerful and important movement in the country. And I only say that, Steve, I know I'm at the beating heart of the MAGA movement here on War Room. I only say that because you can't have an America first if America is sick and dead, fat, sick, and dead. And so you need the MAHA movement in order for the MAGA movement to even work. And what President Trump did in fusing with the two greatest living political dynasties, the Kennedys and the Trumps, together, is create a powerful force that can take down the darkness that is wrought in our government. And that's why they hate him so much, Steve.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Training Tuesday, and we're live on World YouTube and our X Spaces simulcast. Well, the vicious attacks on Secretary Kennedy currently happening in the Senate. Last week, it was the Senate Finance Committee, and media are driven by what? They're driven by greed, power, and a Republican. That's right. Let there be no doubt. Uniparty senators are running a coordinated effort to remove Bobby Kennedy from his position as Secretary of Health and Human Services. And the ringleader behind it all is Republican Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy. But don't take my word for it. Here is ex-user Camus, goes by @newstart_2024. Go follow him @newstart_2024, who posted a video and summary of Cassidy's shameful performance at the hearings last week. And at the beginning, he poses this contrast: the difference between public servants or pharmaceutical puppets. Let me quote Camus. Quote, "In a Senate hearing, Senator Bill Cassidy, who has taken $1.4 million, and I believe it's actually more than that, I'll add that in, from Big Pharma, tried to grandstand and bully Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for daring to question the sacred COVID narrative. Cassidy's performance was a masterclass in bad faith. He misrepresented RFK's past statements, putting words in his mouth. He attacked him for litigating against Biden's unconstitutional vaccine mandates, a defense of bodily autonomy Cassidy himself really should support. And he whined about canceled contracts for a vaccine platform that has serious questions around efficacy and safety, framing it as a waste of money. That's a quote. Instead of a prudent fiscal and health decision. And meanwhile, RFK Jr. remained calm, factual, and focused on the real issue: the devastating lack of trust in our public health agencies caused by their corruption and relentless conflicts of interest. The most damning moment? Cassidy was more concerned about protecting pharma profits and a political narrative than the real-world suffering his policies cause. He read emails from a man whose wife with stage 4 cancer can't get the vaccine and a doctor confused about liability. Direct results of the very system Cassidy defends. He isn't concerned about health. He's concerned about his donors. RFK Jr. is concerned about our health. It's not complicated. Follow the money. Close quote. Well, Dr. Kat Lindley is my guest today to help us understand the details of why this is happening and what you can do about it. She's a Croatian-born, American-trained, board-certified family physician with a direct primary care practice in Texas. Dr. Lindley co-founded the Global Health Project and currently serves as its president. GHP is a coalition of organizations, experts, and advocates dedicated to improving and protecting the health and future of all humans through education, advocacy programs, and communications initiatives. Dr. Lindley, welcome back to the Rob Maness Show.
Hey, Colonel.
How are you?
I'm doing good. I watched that hearing, what was it, last week or the week before? It was pretty enlightening.
Yeah. The Cassidy video that I read Camus's summary of was over 6 minutes long, so I couldn't show it, and I really don't need to show it. It's just appalling to watch these folks do this. But we are going to show 3 clips from 3 of the bad actors from that committee meeting: Ron Wyden, Bennett from Colorado, and Warren from Massachusetts. They're really bad. The interesting thing about this, and Bannon and Benny Johnson pointed it out, is that the Maha movement that Donald Trump and Robert Kennedy Jr. brought into the political arena and melded together really is the key to continuing to successfully put men and women in office that will actually do what they say and act on behalf of the American people instead of on behalf of overwhelmingly wealthy corporate interests or political ideologies, isn't it?
Well, Health and Human Services is one of our biggest agencies. And what happened during COVID with mandates, with COVID vaccine, I think it unraveled the whole corruption within the agency and within the different departments like the FDA, CDC, CMS, which is Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So we've seen a lot of influence that pharma has on our health. And now we have Bobby Kennedy, who has been in this fight for a long time. And all he's really asking is, if you want to do this, show us the science, right? What happened with the COVID-19 vaccine, they started with the safe and effective narrative, and then they kept on changing it because the data wasn't there. And because of that, now he started questioning the whole science behind the vaccinations and behind the data the CDC has given to the public. There is a book out there. It's called Turtles All the Way Down, and it's a history about vaccines. There are 2 books, so make sure you get the one about vaccines. It really shows you that we haven't had true studies in vaccines with placebos. They study these vaccines against another vaccine. So the data that the public has been shown has not been really scientifically true. And now you have a lot of families who are questioning the whole narrative. And you have Bobby Kennedy. And even I was very critical of the FDA, of Dr. Makary, because I felt that FDA has enough data to if they don't want to ban the COVID vaccine, at least suspend it until further, research is done or whatever they need. But recently he has come out very strong. He's starting to say, you know what, children shouldn't get hepatitis B vaccines if there is no risk from the mother and the father, because right now, currently, we're giving hepatitis B vaccines to newborns when they're just born. And if the mom and dad don't have a risk, why are we doing that? So it's really good to see them starting to question all of this. You have Jay Bhattacharya at NIH. He's doing a great job. He's saying we need to do studies, and these studies need to be transparent, and they cannot be paid by pharma, because many studies that we have done in the future, you have to look who is sponsoring the study, because you can sometimes the conclusion is written before, and then the study is kind of like, well, it's showing this, right? So we're trying to see this movement of truly telling American public what's going on so they can decide what they want to take or not.
It's interesting because, Dr. Cassidy, the senator, who's also the health committee, I think the chair of the Senate Health Committee, he is always talking about all the testing and studies that were done to prove that all vaccines safe and effective, not just the mRNA platform, COVID vaccines. But the other side of the story is that, but have they really been tested properly? Right? Is that what you mean by placebo studies? Blind placebo
Yeah, placebo
studies?
means that they're injecting placebo, which is usually saline. But what happened in the studies that they've been doing most recently, they inject another vaccine. So they're testing one vaccine against the other. So you're not starting from that 0 point. So the side effects that you are reporting that this new vaccine has are not really true side effects, because you're testing it with something that already has side effect itself. So this is why this book is really interesting to read, because it opens the eyes to the whole industry and what's happening. And I have to tell you, it's really funny. This is the first time I agreed with Bernie Sanders. At one point, he said to Secretary Kennedy that both sides are getting money from pharma. And you kind of said that in your introduction. They are. Republicans and Democrats are getting a lot of money from the pharma industry. And this is why we're having issues. There is a Liability Protection Act that pharma is under right now. So they cannot be sued for the vaccines. And until we repeal that, and that Congress has to do it, until they repeal that, we're never going to really know exactly what's happening. Because if pharma is telling you that something is good for you, it's safe, it's ineffective, and you should have it, well, then you should let us sue you if it's not, because that's your claim. But currently they're protected.
That's interesting too. Look, I was a military kid, so I have my shot records all the way back to when I was born, my Department of Defense shot records. And my youngest son, he's about to turn 21. He was born in 2004. The difference between the two of us in dosages of vaccines is huge. It's like 70 versus 10 in our childhood vaccine schedule. And he is mildly autistic, by the way. He's one of that cohort. There is a study that Secretary Kennedy has directed to study the causes of autism. It's not. I mean, a lot of people think it might be vaccines, but it's supposed to be a comprehensive study that's about to come out. Have you heard anything about that study yet?
Yeah, the study is going to come out and show what's happening. There are many stories where parents will say, child was doing great. And many times it seems to be MMR vaccine that's the one that causes most issues. And then they'll say, well, child received the MMR vaccine or something or another vaccine. And all of a sudden their behavior changes. They start not communicating. They're not meeting their goals with all the steps that they have to do during the development. And we're starting to see more and more of that. We're starting to see a lot of chronic gastrointestinal issues. We are starting to see a lot of chronic diseases like asthma. Well, it's not that we're starting. We have been seeing them. Atopic dermatitis. And if you look at the correlation, a lot of times the story will be this vaccine and something happened. So it's really good to see that HHS is trying to find the answers. For example, I know that Governor DeSantis and Surgeon General Ladapo are getting a lot of grief over their stance, but they said in Florida they're not going to mandate vaccines anymore. I think the most important thing that we need to do as scientists, as physicians, these agencies, they need to give us the true data so that parents can have informed consent. And if they feel that their child is at risk of something, they can choose to have that done. But just saying you have to do this, it's really not what the public wants anymore. Public wants to be participant in their health, and they want to make sure that they can make decisions and not have the government or the state or the schools telling them what their children need.
Yeah, as a parent and grandparent, all I'm asking for is the facts so I can make informed consent and advise my adult children who are having babies now and those kind of things. That shouldn't be so much to ask, but these pharma-backed senators are really upset about it. We'll be right back after this break, and we'll see another senator make a you-know-what out of himself. And I'm not talking about a nice guy. I'm talking about a donkey, another name for a donkey. We'll be right back with Dr. Kat Lindley.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
Pharmaceutical companies were picking those people and then running their products through with no safety testing.
You can characterize it any way you want. I quoted them today. What I said was accurate. What you said were lies. You described moving the Titanic.
Are you saying that the mRNA vaccine has never been associated with myocarditis or pericarditis in teenagers? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I am simply trying to say that the people that you have put on that panel, after firing the entire...
You're evading the question.
No, I'm asking the questions here,
You're
Mr.
evading
Kennedy.
that question.
I'm asking the questions, Mr. Kennedy. I'm asking the questions for Mr. Kennedy on behalf of parents and schools and teachers all over the United States of America who deserve so much better than your leadership. That's what this conversation is about, Mr. Chairman.
Senator, they deserve the truth, and that's what we're going to give them for the first time in the history of that agency.
Welcome back to the Rob Maida Show. It's Training Tuesday. My guest today is Dr. Katerina Lindley from Texas. And Dr. Kat, you know, that exchange there from Senator Bennett from Colorado is just a very small snippet of Bennett excoriating or attempting to excoriate Secretary Kennedy. And Kennedy is just telling the truth. And I like what he said there. He said, we're going to tell the truth for the first time in the agency's history. That agency that they're talking about, the FDA, has been around for decades and decades. And it just really makes you concerned when you hear things like that coming from Secretary Kennedy, because you know he knows, because as you said, he's been in this space for a very, very long time. And Bennett also embarrassed himself there by saying that myocarditis is not being seen as an adverse reaction to the mRNA COVID-19 vaccine platform. And we know it is. As a matter of fact, young people are dying and having heart conditions that at rates that we've never seen before. Isn't that correct, Dr. Lindley?
Yes, and FDA is going to look into especially children and young adults who have died after receiving the mRNA vaccine, because the numbers are staggering for that population. Essentially, that's a very healthy population. And I think the data that actually military has, that's where the gold is. You have one of the healthiest populations in the world receiving mRNA vaccine, and then you see a lot of issues. So, and that data cannot be really, they kind of did hide the data for a while, but that's the truest, I think, data that can show you how much damage this vaccine does have. And when it comes to pericarditis and myocarditis, we see this in the young adolescent male population the most. And Dr. Teresa Long, I know you know her well, she has had a lot of reports of these issues in young soldiers. So I really think that we need to start looking at this. Everyone is kind of like afraid to go after it because President Trump is still very proud of the warp speed. And I think when it comes to warp speed, what we can say is it was successful in a sense that it was done fast. They tried to respond quickly to something that was a threat at the time. The only problem is the product they chose was wrong product. And that product is causing a lot of damage. And this is kind of where I fault FDA for not doing a good job. In the past, they have done a great job. When there were issues with vaccines or products, there is like an issue of one of the vaccines, they had 13 cases of intussusception, they stopped it. There was Vioxx medication, which is like an anti-inflammatory that we used to give to cardiac patients because we thought it was cardioprotective, that caused over 6,000 deaths. They took it off the market. So in the past, FDA has always done a great job. This time around, we have thousands, hundreds of thousands adverse events reports. We have deaths. We have a lot of incidents, and FDA is not doing their job. So recently, Dr. Makary actually has started pointing in a direction we're going to investigate more. And they need to, because this product needs to be taken off the market until it's safe. They're using, to make it simple, they're using this lipid nanoparticle as a vehicle to transport the mRNA to the cell so that it would do its job. They said it's going to stay in the deltoid and the immune system is going to respond. The problem is it didn't. It went everywhere. So people are having issues. Some people are having cardiac issues. Some people are having autoimmune issues. We're seeing neurologic issues. We're seeing clotting. We're seeing people who had severe blood clots. So we're seeing a lot of problems. They need to say enough. And biggest issue is that they're trying to push this platform for other vaccines.
Yeah. I've heard that I think Pfizer was talking about pushing it for the annual flu vaccine.
And they're going to have combined flu and COVID and all sorts of things. So yes, and it's a big issue. This senator complained about Secretary Kennedy replacing ACIP committee and saying that he has taken good people off and put people who are questionable on. He's putting people who are going to question the science, question the data. To tell you how far CDC has gone, this last ACIP meeting, the new committee approved a therapy for like RSV in neonates and newborns, and they didn't receive the data. The CDC hid part of the data that showed that this product is not great. You should read Dr. Robert Malone's Substack on this to tell you that the actual committee did not receive the right data when they were given this to approve it. So this is how far the agencies have gone. They're not
Dr. Kat, the
telling us what's happening.
ACIP is the committee at the CDC that makes
immunization and
recommendations
vaccines.
on,
yes.
Yeah, it makes recommendations on vaccines on whether they should be accepted or not. Correct?
Yeah. Yeah. They approve vaccines in certain ages, different treatments and things like that. Yeah.
And I think we're going to see a clip about conflict of interest here. But the people that Mr. Kennedy removed from the ACIP, he fired 100% of the committee. What was the problem with them, other than that's the same crowd that approved the mRNA vaccines and didn't want to study it with a placebo study?
Well, they have conflict of interest, right? They were given money to do studies maybe in their institutions and different things like that. One of the biggest conflict of interest is just look at the Pfizer board. We have Gottlieb. He was the FDA commissioner during President Trump in the first administration. He went from being FDA commissioner to being on the Pfizer board. So you have the revolving door in the agencies themselves. We also had recently another, I believe it was also FDA. That was like a year ago or a year and a half ago. From Moderna. They went to Moderna. So you have this revolving door where the people who are supposed to be protecting us are going on the boards of pharmaceutical companies. And we're seeing more and more corruption, whether it's lobbying, whether it's the revolving door or whatever. We need to stop lobbying. You have these, I love the stories that you see, like this person went to Congress making this amount of money, 3 years into it, 4 years into it, 6 years into it, they have millions. What were they doing during the time in Congress? How did they actually, some of them sure have still their companies, but are they really putting that much time into their company to make these millions that they end up with? I think we need to start questioning all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ilhan Omar went from making $51,000 a year net worth to over $50 million, I believe, in a year. It's so ludicrous. People laugh about it like I just did, but it's very serious. It's very serious because, with this mRNA platform just itself, it just happens to be that we put it together so rapidly under warp speed for COVID. But can you quantify the difference in the VAERS reports? And VAERS is the system that adverse reactions are reported in, the civilian system, not the military one. And they're reported voluntarily and everything. But what kind of numbers are you seeing compared to other recently released vaccines in the last 20 years that were properly done?
I really don't remember the exact number, but the graph is great to see. Maybe I'll post it on X and then tag you in it. The graph shows, all the other vaccines are kind of at the bottom. The little column is just barely like touching the bottom. And then you see COVID-19 and the graph shoots up. And it's been all over the place. I'll find it for you and post it on X. I don't know the exact numbers, but it is significant. We have so many reports in VAERS where they're from all over the world. The WHO has their own reporting system. UK has yellow card. All of the countries have the same issues that we're having. And instead of telling Senator Kennedy that he's harming us, they should actually be applauding that he's looking for answers and trying to find what's happening. The alarming thing is the fact that these senators are not questioning at all what happened and why are these numbers out there. That they're not questioning that our military, who is essentially healthy, all of a sudden has myocarditis, other issues. And actually, that's a matter of national security. How many soldiers actually have an underlying disorder that they don't even know about?
That's right. I would like to see a study of military aviators and civilian aviators, commercial aviators, because our hearts, we get our first EKG at our entrance physicals for entering the fly. So you're starting with very young people, and you would have an age, a cohort that spans ages. But I would like to see a specific study of the vaccine on them, because we were all required to get that vaccine in the military and in the commercial pilot industry too. So we got to take another break, Dr. Cat. When we come back, we're going to see another bad actor. It's Elizabeth Warren, and she's taking a lot of money from pharma, and it shows. I'll be right back with Dr. Cat Lindley.
You are effectively denying people vaccines.
We're not going to recommend a product for which there's no clinical data for that indication. Is that what I should be doing?
What you should be doing is honoring your promise that you made when you were looking to get confirmed in this job.
You're going like this.
And that is, you promised that you would not take away vaccines from anyone who wanted them. You just changed the classification of the COVID vaccine.
I'm not taking them away from people, Senator.
It takes it away if you can't get it from your pharmacist.
Well, most Americans are going to be able to get it from their pharmacy for free. Most Americans will be able to get it from their pharmacy for free.
The question is, everyone who wants it, that was your promise.
No, I didn't. I never promised that I was going to recommend products with which there is no indication.
When you said...
And I know you've taken $855,000 from pharmaceutical companies, Senator.
Did you hold up a big sign saying that you were lying when you said that? Because you are the one who said you would not take them away. Now, Senator Kennedy,
I'm not taking them away from anybody.
Secretary, you
want me to indicate a product for which there is no clinical data?
Senator,
is that what you want?
Secretary Kennedy, you said you wouldn't, and now you did.
I'm not taking them away. Everybody can get access to them.
No, they can't walk into a pharmacy the way they could last month and get access.
It depends on the states.
A year ago,
but they can still get it. Everybody can get it. Everybody can get it, Senator.
So look, let's move on. You clearly are taking away vaccines. I've seen the list for what's coming up next. And
welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Training Tuesday, and we're talking about the vicious attacks on Secretary of HHS Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because he wants the American people to know the truth, and he wants the American people to be healthy again. That was Senator from Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren, fondly known by President Trump as Pocahontas, and myself. I don't mind calling her that. She lied about being an American Indian so she could become a professor and get special deals at Harvard and those kinds of things. So, she doesn't have much credibility with the truth anyway. And she's trying to say that Secretary Kennedy lied about saying he wasn't going to take away the COVID vaccine from anybody, and he hasn't. My guest today is Dr. Cat Lindley, who's the president of GHF and a direct primary care physician herself. And Dr. Lindley, Senator, I almost called her doctor. Senator Warren is trying to do the count how many angels can fit on the head of a pin type scenario there, and trying to use some kind of weird nuanced argument to say Secretary Kennedy lied, and he didn't lie. He's not. You could still go get the COVID vaccine. They just changed the way it was characterized, right?
Yeah, and I think the important thing is the fact that she is taking the pharma money, right? This lobbying must stop, because he's right. Why would he just recommend something that doesn't have the clinical data to support that, something that potentially is harmful? This is where they need to be transparent with the public, and then public can decide if they want to get the vaccine. They can still get it. I don't recommend anyone that gets it. COVID at this point it's a seasonal illness that people are going to get. The most important thing that everyone should do is have a strong immune system. How do you get a strong immune system? You should check your vitamin D levels. You should ask a doctor to check them. Keep them above 65 is really where I like it, but above 50 is fine. If that's what's good for them, they should sleep better, decrease their stress, eat well, do all those healthy things that we're supposed to do on our own. I think we have become a little bit too used to there is a pill for that, because that's what pharma does. One thing that Congress should do is stop pharma direct to consumer advertising, but then the mainstream media wouldn't have an income. So that's why that's not going to happen, because you're getting lobbies from pharma and probably media saying, please don't do that. And I keep on coming to this. We need to get rid of the lobbyists. That's the only way that these things are going to actually pass, because these people, everyone, both sides are getting money that is telling them how they should vote and what they should do, and they're not looking at the best interest of their constituents.
Yeah, they're not. One of the things that you brought up, immunity and everything. And look, I took the shot early on. I volunteered as a test subject myself. So I took it very early, the Moderna 2-shot series. And that was 4 years ago, a little bit more than 4 years ago. And my antibody levels, I had my antibodies checked 2 months ago. They're through the roof, like 18,000 when we did the test. Where they should be from the doctors that I've talked to, about 1,500 at this point. One of the things I'm concerned about with the mRNA platform is why are my antibodies in my own system doing that, staying so high? But what about the mRNA technology is it that is prospectively harmful because it's able to do that?
Well, the question is, are you still producing the spike protein? Because, the studies that they did, they kind of stopped it and said, okay, the spike protein is not being produced beyond this period, but actually stopped the study. They never went further to check. And we do have some people who are still producing spike protein and are still having a lot of issues and active issues, not only just reactivation of chronic illnesses. So that's the problem. We really don't know what's going to happen with this mRNA platform. And the lipid nanoparticle, what they use to transport the spike protein, is traveling everywhere. They found it in breast milk. They found it, it accumulates in the ovaries and testicles. So there is issues with infertility. We're seeing declining in rates of live births all over the world. So there are many questions, and this is why what the Congress should actually applaud what Secretary Kennedy is doing. He's saying we are seeing these markers, we are seeing these adverse events. Let's investigate. Let's see if this platform is actually something that we can use. But they don't want to find out, because they're getting money directly from pharma, who doesn't want the answers. Pharma wants to stay under this liability protection. There is a bill in Congress currently that's trying to repeal this liability protection. If they cared about their constituents, every single one of them would sponsor this, both sides, then they would pass it in House and Senate and bring it in front of President Trump. Because if pharma has nothing to fear, if their product is safe and if their product is effective, no one is going to sue them. So why do they need a shield?
Yeah, and it's really odd, because the question is, it's Secretary Kennedy, and you have pointed it out in this segment, is that It's just that the data doesn't clinically indicate yet whether it's safe and effective. What is the problem with doing the right studies to both short and long term to see what the impacts are? So when I go to a doctor and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing, I took this test on my own, what do you recommend? Based on whether I've got symptoms or not. In my case, I don't have any symptoms, but and they should be able to answer it based on the data, and they can't. That's the issue, right?
They can't. And I don't know if you remember at the beginning, the actual insert of the vaccine had nothing on the paper was blank. They had nothing to tell you what kind of risk are you taking. And then they started adding some things, and myocarditis is listed in there. Pericarditis is listed in there. They even said that they didn't have data in pregnancy, but they recommended it to pregnant women. So all I have to say is that FDA has the data. In my opinion, they actually shouldn't even do the studies. I feel that doing studies is unethical at this point, because how can you give this product to anyone knowing that some of them are going to get adverse events because you have so many reported? But there's something needs to be done. And what Secretary Kennedy is doing is right. He's questioning their science. He's saying, show me the data. Pharmaceutical companies have their own data. They can share it. They can show what's there. We have Dr. Bhattacharya at NIH. He's surrounded by some great scientists. These are people who are ethical, who just want to know the science, the truth behind the science, and then they want to give us enough information that we can all have informed consent. If you have true informed consent, then you're going to know all the risks and all the benefits, and then you can decide if you want it or not. But one thing I want to come back to, we didn't talk about enough, in my opinion, is mandate. So I'll go back to my upbringing. I had huge issues with mandates. The reason why is I grew up in a communist country. When the whole COVID started, it started with fear. It started with isolation. Then it was, if you do this, if you wear a mask, you can go shopping. And then at some point we got the vaccine. So it was, if you get the vaccine, you can go to your job. You can actually bring money to your family so you guys can live and things like that. That really reminded me of the whole communism type of a thing. Mm-hmm. If you do this, we're going to give you that. But if you don't do it, you're going to lose your job. And I always felt, I did hear Alan Dershowitz's argument that somewhere in the Constitution there is like something where it says if there is a big public health issue that government can mandate certain things. I always felt, I'm not a constitutionalist, I'm not a lawyer, but I always felt that really goes against the Constitution. And I have a huge issue with the government mandating a product to everyone and saying, if you don't get it, you're going to lose your job. I don't know. I really can get over that. And I feel like we've gotten over that a little bit too easy.
Yeah, I agree. The military, the U.S. military, Secretary Hegseth has declared the mandate was unconstitutionally implemented, and they're trying to bring folks back in. But you touch on an issue. I want to cover it in the last segment a little bit more in depth. You touch on an issue of accountability for the people that made these decisions and enforced these rules. And in the military, it's fairly well defined. You can identify who the individuals were. Most of the orders were documented very well. Even when an order was verbal by a very senior official, you've had people testify under oath what the official said that violated laws like the Religious Restoration and Freedom Act, the RFRA, but in the outside world, in the civilian world, it's not as easy to do that. And we've got to have accountability everywhere because this was wrong. It was wrong. I mean, like you said, you came from a communist country. You know what it looks like. I don't think a lot of Americans understand what they were being made part of by the use of government force at every single level. unless you happen to be a stripper at a strip bar or a liquor store or those kinds of places where you could gather. It was very, very interesting to see oppressive and tyrannical policies implemented seemingly overnight and accepted by most people. Dr. Lindley. We'll got to take this last break. We'll be right back with Dr. Lindley continuing this discussion. And I also want to go back to the mandate for children and the MMR vaccine. I have some questions about that. I want to get Dr. Lindley to opine on. We'll be right back. It's Training Tuesday on Worldview Tube.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
About anything you've done or plans to change it. And my last comment is, I hope that you will tell the American people how many preventable child deaths are an acceptable sacrifice for enacting an agenda that I think is fundamentally cruel and defies common sense. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do I get a reply? Or, Senator, you've sat in that chair for how long? 20, 25 years, while the chronic disease in our children went up to 76%. And you said nothing. You never asked the question why it's happening. Why is this happening? Today, for the first time in 20 years, we learned that infant mortality has increased in our country. It's not because I came in here. It's because of what happened during the Biden administration that we're going to end.
I'm going to let Senator Wyden respond briefly to that, and then we're not going to go over like...
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. Infant mortality, chronic disease rates. You know, Secretary Kennedy said that when his uncle was president, John F. Kennedy Sr., chronic disease rates were at about 11%. It's over 70% now. Over 70%. And infant mortality is through the roof. And it's not because some guy named Robert F. Kennedy Jr. took the oath a few months ago. It's just been a few months. It's because of the policies that people like Senator Ron Wyden have supported and companies from Big Pharma that are paying him and all these other senators you've seen, including Bill Cassidy, millions of dollars into their campaign coffers. That's where the real power is. Yes, they lobby, and we need to end that. And we need to end the TV ads and that kind of advertising. But I think we need to end the ability of corporations to put money in candidate coffers so that they can continue to get reelected without fear of being challenged. That's what's really happening. A corporation is not a citizen. A corporation needs to be stopped when it's out of control like this. And this is out of control. These senators do not represent their states. They don't represent their voters. They represent the people that are putting millions of dollars into their coffers, and it's killing our babies. That's what Secretary Kennedy is pointing out, and that's what he's committed to showing the American people so that they have confidence in the decisions that they're supposed to be making about themselves and their children. And my guest today is Dr. Kat Lindley, a direct primary care physician, president of GHP, the Global Health Project. Dr. Lindley, you know, that little clip there just really, it put me across the line as far as whether I was like kind of miffed or really angry. And it just makes me angry that these arrogant people that have taken these millions of dollars and are defending these policies and programs to the point where they don't want the truth to be known by the people that are using them and that are putting them in their kids. It's appalling.
It is. And there's so many issues when it comes to the epidemic of chronic disease in our children. So you mentioned, when you were younger, you got 4 vaccines, and now children are getting over 70 some vaccines. We're giving them very early when their immune system really hasn't had a chance to even develop fully. Also, there's a whole scandal with baby formula. Even the infant foods, how many times has it been recalled? And then you start looking at even our education system, right? When I was growing up, we started school at 7 years old. Our children now start school at 5. They go to daycare very early because both parents are working. So you having children go to school, I'm on a school board right now. Our elementary, I believe, starts like at 7:45 or 7:30. They're kind of staggered. And then the kids are done around 3. So you have them being in school all day. They have to come home, do homework. The nutrition we're giving our children, right? Red dye has been tied to many issues, a lot of different illnesses that's causing in children. The food that we cook at home. When I go back home to Europe, it's totally different. The food that I eat in Europe and the food that we eat here. All the things they're adding to our to food, right? Bread. Bread, you buy bread and it lasts you like a week. Well, bread is really not supposed to last you more than a day, but they put preservatives to make it last a week. So there's all these little things, and I get it. Both parents work. It's hard. It's really difficult to cook. Sometimes, you do crock pot or whatever, but then you forget to turn it on. So there's so many issues. I get it. But it really starts at home. And the reason our children are sick is because of the industry itself. It's a food industry. You have food lobbyists. They're telling you raw milk is bad for you, but raw milk is actually good for you. They're attacking our beef industry, right? I'm also on board of Beef Initiative, which is connecting ranchers directly to the consumers, because the ranchers are under attack. The foods that we're getting, I don't know if you saw their documentary, they're putting some kind of pink glue to our ground beef that you buy at the stores to make it look like it lasts longer and it's a nice red color. So there's so many things that they're doing to make us unhealthy, and it all goes back to our children. You have indoctrination in school, the whole transgender, right? There's such an attack on the family. And all the Secretary Kennedy is saying, let me look at what's happening with the food, with baby formula, with the vaccines we're giving our children, with medications that we're putting our children on. How many kids have been diagnosed with ADHD when all they probably need is like every 2 hours at school? Maybe they should go out for 15 minutes to run, to get that energy out. I don't know about you, but when I go to medical conferences, I cannot sit for 8 hours. I sit for a little while, then I get up, then I come back, then I sit. It's like, how can you expect a child to do that? There's so many things that we're not addressing, and all he's trying to say is, our kids are sick. I'm in charge of this agency. I have people that can help us with this. Let us do our job.
Well, maybe the progress that the so-called experts say that we've made in things like food, children's exercise. We used to have 2 recesses a day in elementary school. I think they've cut it down to 1. And I get your point. My youngest son, who is autistic, was initially diagnosed with ADHD and those kind of things, when really I think it had more to do with the environment that was being created around him and trying to restrain kids like him, as opposed to letting them run. And get tired out and get the appropriate amount of activity and those kind of things. Are you pleased with what you're seeing on the food side, Dr. Lindley? When the secretary said that red dyes were going to be eliminated, I noticed a lot of the big companies came out and said, okay, we're eliminating red dye altogether. And I think there was another dye that has been removed too. And I see some companies are going back to beef tallow in their French fries and those kind of things, which is the way it was when I was growing up in the 1960s. And you didn't have fat kids everywhere. And they ate a lot of fries and burgers.
Well, I have to be honest, I was very critical of Secretary Kennedy with the red dye and things like that initially, not because I didn't think it's important. I think it's very important. But I also feel that like Cheerios, Captain Crunch, and other things, soda or whatever, is something that you have a choice to buy. And if you want to be healthy, you just don't buy it. You know, it's if you're worried about your children, maybe you should make eggs and bacon in the morning for breakfast and not give them a bowl of Captain Crunch. So I have been critical on that aspect because I felt, and I still feel the same way, that mRNA is a technology that needs to be addressed urgently. We really can't just sit back. I am very happy that I'm seeing him really push for studies. Senator Johnson is having another hearing today. More people are listening, more people are aware. I just feel that we need to put data out there so people can decide whether they want it or not. And I don't know if you saw that video of certain people who, in protest of Secretary Kennedy now getting their 7th or 8th booster or whatever it is. Again, it's their choice. Right. So if they want to do it, it's their choice. I just feel that everyone should have the data out there to make the choice if they want to make it.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm most pleased about is that seems to be the approach of the new HHS leadership. I'm just worried that, like every other department, especially the Defense Department, the intel agencies, HHS, that the folks below the top 2 levels are not appointed, and the ones that are appointed aren't confirmed yet. That have to be confirmed. So there's a lot of resistors still left in the United States government that we've got to get removed in order to have the full effect. Before we let you go, though, can we talk about the MMR vaccine? You brought it up when I mentioned the potential for the autism study, which I think is great. And again, I don't know if vaccines cause autism, like you said, but I got the MMR vaccine when I was a child, but I don't think I was a baby. I think I was older and beyond the toddler stage when I got it. Is it the same formula that's being used today? It's just that it's being given at a different time and in greater quantity? What is going on with that?
It's not exactly the same, I believe, but the problem is, and I don't remember when I got it. I really don't remember the schedule. Plus, I got mine in Europe. The issue with the vaccines are, again, the studies have not been done against the placebo, so we don't have the true data. And, they are concerned about children who are not vaccinated and the outbreak that we had in Texas recently. What we discovered during that outbreak is that children were not, there were several deaths, but they were from secondary infection that were not treated appropriately. And that's kind of what happened during COVID as well. Many people developed a secondary bacterial infection that was not treated appropriately with antibiotics and other things. So we had increased incidence of people dying from COVID, or I would say with COVID, because they probably died because they had bacterial infection. Right. So there's many nuances to this, but I think one of the most important nuances that many parents have reported after their children received the MMR vaccine, their life completely changed. And if that is true, we need to have the agency prove us wrong or say, yes, it's happening. Because if it's happening, we shouldn't be giving it to children and just say, well, you have to have it to go to school. And this is where I do feel that Dr. Ladapo in Florida and Governor DeSantis are doing the right thing. They're saying we should not mandate this. Parents need to be given informed consent, and then parents can decide if their child is at risk and if they want their child to have something.
Exactly right. I agree with them too. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kat, for coming on today and spending so much time with us. Tell folks real quick where they can find you and anything coming up that you're working on.
So the best place to find me would be X, and it's at KL Veritas. I actually have an interesting video, I should probably pin it again, that shows how many vaccines we used to get and how many we're getting now. And this is why it's important to ask these questions. So X is probably the best place to find me. And I am I'm director for the fellowship program for the Independent Medical Alliance. And we have been putting a lot of resources out there for people who are having issues with the vaccine or have questions about vaccine. We have a great pediatrician who's part of the organization, that actually goes through every vaccine and shows what risks are and what the benefits could be. So there are many resources on the Independent Medical Alliance, so just follow us there as well.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Lindley. We appreciate it. Tomorrow's Whistleblower Wednesday, folks, and we'll be talking with Toby Leary of Gunworks in Massachusetts. Veterans being arrested there for no reason on trumped-up gun charges. It's ridiculous that our rights are being violated every day by these tyrannical governments, no matter what level they are. I'll see you then on The Rob Maness Show.